So we're draining my coolant. Again, nothing's wrong with it. It's just because of this darn radiator cap. The spring and the little plunger that attaches to the spring fell in there. Now, I could just leave it in there because there's a very low chance of it actually damaging my system, but the chance is still there, and I'd be kicking myself if in like 2 months that piece ends up causing a catastrophic cooling failure. This is what caused me all that trouble. Yo, today is a very exciting day. Now, I checked my YouTube upload history, and the last time I performed a proper performance upgrade on this car was not last February, but the Feb before that. So it's been 2 years, and that was the big brake upgrade. But we're back and we're better than ever. So as you can tell from the title, we're going to be installing an ASR subframe brace and a Type R swaybar. Now the Type R swaybar is 22 millimeters thick, and the VTIR swaybar, which I currently have on the car, is 14 millimeters thick. So that is a massive difference already. And these swaybars, the rear swaybars, are a perfect bang for buck modification because it's front wheel drive and it's prone to understeering, which is what the rear swaybar aims to reduce by countering some body roll. So the beefier the swaybar, the less body roll you're gonna get. Now the thing is, the Integra Type R had a slightly different chassis reinforcement, meaning that it was stronger and it was able to handle the swaybar designed for it. Now the VTIRs didn't have that same specification, so you've actually got to reinforce the subframe before using a Type R swaybar or one that's bigger than stock. Otherwise, you're at risk of ripping the entire subframe out. And that's why most people, when modifying their EG Civics or their non-Type R DC2s, go with a subframe brace of some sort. So let's get straight to it. Just that one attached to the control arm over here, and same over there on that side. And they're just the end link bolts which attach the sway bar to the control arms. And then after that, I believe it's just these two bolts here and these two bolts here, and then you can just pull the sway bar off, I think. Let's find out and see. How is that for a size difference? So that's the original 14mm sway bar, and that is a 22mm Type R sway bar. So much beefier. Makes that look like a toothpick. And the bushings are obviously way bigger. So I have a feeling this is gonna make a very big difference to the handling of this car, and I am so excited to get it on there and take it for a spin. Before we try swapping any end links and bushings around, I am gonna install the subframe brace first. Now we've got to undo that bolt over there and the same bolt on that side. The control arm now kind of hangs free, as you can see here. I also had to disconnect this bolt, which is another 14, and it's just the bolt that the shock sits in. And the next step is to undo these two bolts and remove this little bracket over here. Using the 4 Allen key bolts provided, you have to affix the backing plates. So that's these big plates here. Now I've tried doing it with this ABS brake line bracket in place, as many others on the internet have done, but it just doesn't seem to sit flush with the subframe when it's on. So I'm just going to take it off, and we'll find a way to zip tie it on later and stop it from dangling around while we're driving. But yeah, unfortunately this just isn't going to be able to stay. So two 10mm bolts and those come right out. Now I actually read somewhere online that ASR recommends you drill these holes out so that the thread's basically destroyed in the welded nuts here, and you just basically use this nut and this bolt to secure the mounting plate and the subframe brace to the subframe. I didn't actually drill them out, most people don't, but what ended up happening was this thread inside that hole ended up destroying one of the bolts I had. But what I'm going to do is drill these holes out because they are stripping the threads on my bolts and I need to get a new bolt basically because of it. If you're going to drill it out, you need a 3/8 bit, and what I did was I dipped it in a bit of engine oil to keep it cool while it goes in and out and destroys that thread. So this is the original bolt that came with the ASR kit, and this is the new one I got. This is 8.8 in strength, and that should be okay for our application. If we That looks fantastic. 2 trips to Bunnings and 4 packs of nuts and bolts later, I finally found a bolt that'll fit the upper hole in the subframe brace. So it's an M8 by 50mm, and it's just about the right size to fit this hole right here. I also had to mess around with that backing plate that we put inside the actual subframe. The previous owner had somehow stripped some of the threads and ruined the thread on that, for that top hole. So I had to take it out again, drill the damaged part out. So that was a bit of a screw around, but I guess that's what you get for buying second-hand parts off Facebook Marketplace. The next order of business is to swap these end links over. Now I've done this side. I actually swapped them over, so now the Type R Swaybar has my original VTIR end links on them, and the bushings on these they're not in great shape, but they're a lot better than the Type R Swaybar end links. So I use a breaker bar, ratchet, and just crack that bolt. And same for this, and just swap them over. So a 15 and a 12. And then we just have to crack her loose. End links have been swapped over, such an easy process. They seem to be identical, so now we can go ahead and start swapping these bushings into the D brackets. It's actually quite important that you grease up the insides of the Swaybar bushings, because obviously there's going to be a lot of torsion running through the bar and it'll all transfer to the bushings, so you don't want that squeaking like crazy. Just take a healthy dose and just yeah. Just spread that real good. And now we can move on to the Swaybar. So all you have to do is make sure your bushings are on, which we did, then get the D brackets on top of them and bolt them down into those 2 empty holes, number 1 and number 2. Alright, The Swaybar is now held on by the D brackets, and we've just got to hook up the end links to the control arm. I had to switch the D bracket bushings back to the original Type R ones because the Super Pro ones were too small. I mean, I bought this entire thing secondhand, so you can see why some parts match, some parts don't. And even though the new Super Pro bushings, well, new to me Super Pro bushings, was made for a 22mm bar, it's too small for these D brackets. Essentially, I just need to get a brand new set of bushings for the D brackets, the end links, the Swaybar ends, and just get all of those in one hit. And I'll, save that for a later day because this project is already taking too long as it is. I managed to get the Swaybar end links into the control arm. The next step is to torque everything down to spec. Now, it's 40 foot-pounds for the lower control arm to subframe bolts. The trick here though is to preload the suspension so that it kind of mimics what your natural ride height would be when the car's lowered to the ground. And to do that, you just place your jack on the hub or control arm and raise it up a bit so that there's load on it. The torque specs for the end link to the lower control arm's only 16 foot-pounds of torque. I zip-tied the ABS lines to the control arms. I'll probably be replacing those every few days, I'm guessing. But we'll see how long they hold up. But everything's torqued up. Now it's a matter of cleaning up this terrible mess I've made. Putting the muffler back on, getting the wheels on, and taking it for a test drive. Okie dokie, this is it, the maiden voyage. I couldn't take it out yesterday because Melbourne weather. Now I can finally take this car for a bit of a spin and hopefully harvest the fruits of my labor. It has been so long since I've set the camera up over there and done like a drive-along video of me talking while cruising. I better secure everything. Put it all in there. Okay, first roundabout's coming up. Here we go. Oh my god. That sticks. Just give it a bit of a... My god. Oh my god. Okay, it works. Oh my god. Holy crap. I've got some really bad eco tires on here ever since I got the new to me P1s after getting rid of the Advans I had. And these tires are crap. Like, they don't wear that fast, which is great for fuel efficiency and my wallet, but unfortunately they don't grip great either, and I don't think it understands the definition of grip as soon as rain's introduced to the equation, which is quite often here in Melbourne. But essentially, these tires are a real weak point in this car's suspension. The understeer is unreal. With the introduction of this bar, however, it's actually mitigated quite a bit of that understeer in the dry, and that's honestly incredible. I can't imagine what this would be like with some proper performance tires like the RE003s I used to have. The only problem with RE003s is that they wear so fast and they are expensive. So onto the Swaybar, my gosh, there is actually a massive difference. And I think just based on the 10 minutes I've been driving around, throwing it around corners, I can safely say that after coilovers and tires, Swaybar should definitely be your next modification. It just sticks. What it does is it wrestles the rear end into submission and just forces it back into line as soon as it starts to step out. It feels so much more rigid, so much tighter. Always make me cry. I'm stoked. Now, I knew that beefing up the rear sway bar in these front wheel drive lightweight cars makes a big difference. It's hard to imagine how much of a difference it makes until you actually drive it and experience it for yourself. So yeah, I'm really glad with how that turned out. The only thing left to do is to get a proper bushing kit and overhaul the bushings completely for the D brackets, the sway bar end links, and the sway bar ends, because they're all pretty janky, and they're from either the stock VTIR bar or the stock Type R sway bar. So that's next on the list, but we'll save that for a later date. All in all, is the mod worth it? 100%. Do I recommend you guys do it? 100%. It makes such a big difference, especially if you've got coilovers and good tires, which I'll hopefully be getting soon, especially after performing this modification. It's inspired me to get out there and get some performance tires again, just so I can truly enjoy just how marvelous the suspension setup on this car is. The installation was meant to be fairly simple. It's supposed to be a really easy process, and it's not supposed to take long at all, but I did buy this second hand, so it was missing some hardware, some threads had been stripped here and there, and that makes a huge difference. It turned it into a much longer project than I initially intended, but that being said, it is still well worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Thanks for watching, guys. Please leave a like, comment, give me some feedback, what you think, what I should do next to the car. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
You say you got them guns, but I've never seen you bang. You say you